Hey guys, what's up? Mr. Beetle A90 here, and today I'm back with another Bond review. Now we go into James Bond's second film adventure, From Russia with Love. Now, it's directed by Terence Young and was released in 1963. And, right, so let's just basically get into the plot of From Russia with Love. So once again, James Bond is battling Spectre. And the organization has hatched a plan to steal a decoder from the Russians. They'll access Russian state secrets, and will basically cause, you know, worldwide problems. So it's up to Bond to seize the device, and he comes across enemies of like Red Grant and Rosa Kleb, and that's basically the plot. And I definitely say it's one of my personal favorites in the series. I wouldn't put it in the top 10. I can see why people would put it in the top 10, but I do really enjoy this film. I know a lot of people may think, oh, you're an idiot, From Russia with Love is the best or one of the best, and I can see why people think that. Just personally, I think it just misses out on that in that top 10 slot, but it's still a very good spy adventure. And I think it's definitely a strong entry into the series. So let's just get into the cast and that sort of thing and how they all fare. So Sean Connery plays James Bond once again. He steps his game up even more from Dr. No, and it's definitely up to this point his best performance. However, his best performance as Bond was yet to come, but this is definitely, I'd say, his second best performance probably. And then we've got the Bond girl, played by Daniela Bianchi, Tatiana Romanova. She's a cool Bond girl. She doesn't necessarily do that much, but she's, an interesting character, so that kind of, I think, really does make her a good Bond girl. Because I always find with Bond girls, they don't all necessarily have to be, like, independent women who can beat up people. They have to have just something interesting to them and be, like, likable. And I definitely think, Tatiana has, is an interesting character, but she doesn't necessarily do that much. But as I said, her kind of her intrigue in terms of her character, I think, really makes me like this character. And we've got one of the best henchmen in the entire series, Red Grant, played by Robert Shaw. He's awesome. A lot of Bond henchmen, such as like Stamper and from Tomorrow Never Dies and Necros from The Living Daylights, are clearly based off this character, tall, muscular, blonde henchman. So yeah, I think Robert Shaw plays this guy really well. You can tell he's a tough, badass, but he's not just all muscle. This guy can, we see in the film he does actually pretend to be someone else, which I think is pretty cool. I can't remember the name at the moment, but it's really cool to see him, that he's not just all beef. He can actually talk in the sense of, so I like that. And then we've got the reason I'm not calling any of the bad guys in this film the villains, because I wouldn't really consider Red Grant or Rosa Kleb, played by Lottie Lenya, as the main villain. I still think in these films Blofeld is the main villain, because Red Grant and Rosa Kleb are working for Blofeld and Spectre. So I consider these two more, henchwomen. But Rosa Kleb's really cool as well. She's obviously, I like how they kind of, because in the book, from Russia with Love, she's a lesbian, and I like how they kind of keep that in the film. It gives us something. It gives her a bit of identity to her character, and it shows that she can't be kind of like turned over to Bond's side through Bond's charm and whatever. So I think that's a good. That's what I quite like, and she's just someone who's, she kind of reminds me of a stereotypical strict kind of headmistress at an all-girls boarding school, which sounds really random, I know, but that's just kind of the way I see it. But yeah, she's really cool, and she has that sharp boot, which I think is really cool. That's how she tries to kill Bond, which I think it's definitely in a unique way, a unique kind of weapon for a henchwoman. And I really like Rosa Kleb. I think she's one of the better henchmen, men/women. And then we've got Karen Bay, played by Pedro Armendariz, I believe that's pronounced. If that's wrong, I apologise. But I think he's definitely one of the best Bond allies in this film. You know, he's definitely, when he spoiler alert, when he does die, you know, it definitely affects Bond, and it affects us as the audience, because he's someone who you can tell is really good friends with Bond, and when he dies, it does actually really hit you hard, I think, when he eventually does die in the film. He's just a really cool character, and he's played, I think Pedro Aramendreas plays him with a lot of kind of class, which I quite like. And then obviously we've got the regular MI6 regulars. So we've got Bernhard Lee once again as M. I think he definitely steps up in From Russia with Love. He's given more to do. He has obviously. I think Bernhard Lee is the second best M, as I said previously. He really shows his authority in this one. But I like how in the film they show that he's actually kind of outside the office. He's friends with Bond, because him and some of the people at MI6 are listening to a tape recorder with Bond, and he's talking to someone about how him and him and M went to Thailand, and then he turns off the tape. I think that's quite funny. I think that's probably one of the funniest scenes in the film. But yeah, again, I just really love Bernhard Lee as M. I think he's just almost made for the role. Lois Maxwell as Moneypenny. She's good once again. She's given more to do, so she steps up again. And I still think with a lot of the MI6 regulars, their best performances were yet to come. But I do think this is a good step up from Lois Maxwell as Moneypenny. And Desmond Llewellyn comes in for his first film as Q. He doesn't necessarily leave that much of an impression. He's not really given that much to do. From what he does, for the scenes that he does have, he does give off some sort of character, but obviously I think his kind of best performance was yet to come. For me, when it comes to the Q character, I think the peak of Q was in the Timothy Dalton era. I think, but we'll get, obviously I've talked about it in my License to Kill review. I think that's probably Q's best performance, but I think also in the Living Daylights, Q's pretty great. But obviously I'll get onto that in my Living Daylights review when I get around to that. So now we get onto the score, done by John Barry. Again, this is a pretty good score. I think it's a lot with the early Bond films. The scores aren't necessarily that great, and they definitely get much better by into the late 60s. I always think that, but it's the opening title sequence, I think, is very good. The From Russia with Love main title song is very good. There's definitely, it's just such a powerful song, and I think, you know, John Barry did a really good job with it, honestly. But I do, as I've said before, I think his best work was yet to come, personally for me anyway. Now in terms of the action scenes, you know, I'd say the action scenes, I mean, obviously because it's made in the 60s, there's a couple of edits that are a bit shit. Like in the opening title sequence is pretty good. Like you have the guy is Bond, and then Red Grant attacks him, and then it's not actually James Bond. It's someone. It's just a training exercise for Spectre. I think that's a very good opening title sequence. However, the bit where like Red Grant attacks the fake Bond, it's edited pretty badly. And it's not terrible. I think there's. Oh, trust me. When we get to my Thunderball review, I'll rip the editing apart in that film. But the editing here, it's bad. It's in some places it's bad, but it's still like tolerable. Whereas in team films like Thunderball, the editing is just atrocious. It really takes you out of the film. The train fight is great between Bond and Red Grant. Definitely one of the best fight scenes in the entire series. I really, really do enjoy that. And just the whole train scene in general is a great, it's a great sequence in the film. Probably the best bit for me personally. The boat chase as well, I think, is quite good towards the end of the film. And yeah, I think overall, where does From Russia with Love kind of fall flat? I think the main problem for me with From Russia with Love is at times it does feel like it drags a bit. It can be quite slow at times. There's kind of quite a bit of exposition, which is not the best, you know, is not the most exciting thing to watch. But overall, I would say From Russia with Love is a very good film. I definitely recommend, if you have not seen it, that you watch it. However, it at times for me personally it does drag. But I will say it is one of the best Bond films overall. So I hope you guys enjoyed that review of From Russia with Love. Yeah, you know, please like and subscribe. Check out my main channel, Mr. Beetle 890. And thanks for watching, guys.